So we seriously have to have a talk about Tesla stock. See, in yesterday's video, I mentioned how we wanted to pay attention to the job reports that is coming out because the job data has been having a huge influence on not only Tesla stock, but the overall markets. In fact, in previous videos, I've highlighted how Tesla has either moved up or down based on recent job data. And this is why I said, hey, looking into the job data coming out today, it's gonna have a huge influence on Tesla stock. Now, yesterday in the Push and Profit private group, I mentioned that Biden was gonna be speaking about the job reports tomorrow, which is today, and how the White House receives the exact figures days in advance. Now, I mentioned this to the Push and Profit private group yesterday because you oftentimes have to read between the lines. See, if we hear that the White House is announcing that President Joe Biden is gonna talk about the job data today when they actually get the job data days in advance, well, that's most likely because unemployment is either remaining flat or ticking down, and we're adding more jobs to the economy. And of course, President Joe Biden and this current administration is going to want to take credit for a robust job market. And that is exactly what we got with hiring accelerating with 336,000 jobs added. Along with that, we saw that the unemployment rate remained the same. And of course, when you take a look at Tesla stock, the exact moment when this job data came out, we saw a lot of selling pressure. And that's because, of course, while jobs are being added are great for the American in this country looking for a job as there's demand for labor, that's all good, but the markets already know that being that the labor market's still hot, that's actually a bad sign because we know that the Federal Reserve or the members of the FOMC are looking at this data and they're just, face palming their heads because they know that they're still going to have a uphill battle against inflation because, again, many Americans are still working, receiving paychecks, meaning they could continue to spend, and they want to have that equilibrium with price stability and maximum employment by seeing the labor markets cool off a bit. But of course, as we anticipated in the Push and Profit private group, we do see Joe Biden gloating about the job numbers, saying that September was another good month for American workers with 336 jobs created and inflation coming down. That's nearly 14 million jobs, including 815,000 in manufacturing created under Bidenomics. And then we also see this tweet from the White House showing how Biden added more jobs than any other president, which is honestly kind of sketchy considering that they're counting jobs that were actually added after the pandemic, but we're not going to go into that. But in addition to the job data we got today, we also had some huge updates with Tesla. See, yesterday we see that Tesla has cut the price of the Model Y long range and the Model Y performance to all-time lows, with the Model Y long range being at 48,490 from 50,000, and then also the Model Y performance being at 52,490 coming down from 54,490. Now, following the price cuts, we saw that fund manager Gary Black tweeted that he is reducing his Tesla adjusted earnings per share and price target to $300 to reflect price cuts taken on M3 and MY last night and increased risk of further price cuts. He also says, I expect Wall Street to cut fiscal year 2024 and 2025 estimates by 5 through 8% after earnings. Price cuts taken year to date have so far been relatively impotent with demand elasticity near zero. Wall Street 2023 earnings per share estimates may only fall modestly given the short-term volume bump that normally accompanies price cuts as orders are pulled forward and the estimations for now of inventory discounts of new M3 and MYs. And so what we're currently seeing is less optimism in regards to the recent price cuts on Tesla. But I also want to share this tweet from a fellow YouTuber, Tom Nash, as I thought it was pretty interesting and important to actually read to you guys. So he goes on to say that Tesla dropping Model Y prices is not a weakness-driven decision. The Model Y is the world's best-selling car, and dropping prices will accelerate market share expansion while killing the competitors that operate on much lower margins. It's a death blow and not a defensive strategy. And so I wanted to share that tweet with you guys because at the end of the day, yes, this is bad for Tesla in the short term, but this is actually pretty good for Tesla in the long term, but few may not really agree with that.
Wait, what did you just say?
But with that being said, I want us to go ahead and hop into my laptop so that we could take a deeper dive into Tesla stock, talk about it more from a short-term time frame and also a long-term time frame by really just having a technical perspective, also cover some additional topics. But before we go ahead and hop into my laptop, I want to remind you guys to make sure to look into the comment section below, because there's going to be a pinned comment for my free weekly market post insights, where every single week I send out an email talking about what's going on in the overall markets. And of course, it's completely free. So if you guys want to sign up, make sure to check out that pinned comment in the comment section below. Alrighty, so we are officially in my laptop taking a look at Tesla stock, and there is a ton to cover in the remainder of this video. So if you made it this far already, make sure to watch this video to the end and watch it in its entirety, because we're going to cover some interesting topics that I think you absolutely want to be aware of. Now, yes, we do have a couple more hours before the market closes, exactly 2 hours pretty much, and we're going to go ahead and talk about this rally with Tesla stock. But before we talk about that, let's actually highlight some things that have already taken place. So we saw that Tesla didn't react very well after the announcements of the price cuts, but more importantly, we see that exactly when the job reports came out, we saw Tesla stock fall down, as well as the overall markets. In fact, if we take a look at the S&P 500, similar pattern, right? Things sold off once that job report came out. And this is why I often say that when we're looking at Tesla stock, yeah, we want to look at the charts, yeah, we want to look at the fundamentals, but you want to be aware of economic data as well. As you can see, it has a huge influence, and I've been pointing this out on every single video that I upload, which, by the way, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about what are we seeing, right? So why is the overall markets pushing up? We see Tesla stock pushing up. We see the S&P 500 pushing up. And that's because, yeah, we did see that, you know, the markets, or the labor market, really added more jobs, and unemployment remained flat, which is good for the economy, but kind of bad for the Feds with inflation. So yeah, we did see that take place, but you also have to kind of look a little bit more deeper into these reports. You have to parse through them a little bit further, right? So what we see is that job growth may be hot, but wage growth is actually slowing, okay? So this is pretty interesting, because the average hourly earnings rose by 0.2% in September, bringing the annual gain to 4.2%, which is closing it in on a slower rate, which is important, because yeah, the Feds, they do want to see the labor markets contract a bit, but more importantly, they'd be fine if the labor market were to kind of remain the same, but at least wage growth kind of slowed down, because there's this concern of like this wage growth spiral where people are getting paid more, they're going to go ahead and spend more. And so seeing that wages are kind of slowing down, again, that's not good for the worker, right? If you're, you know, trying to look for a new job, that's not good, because 40% of the people looking for a new job right now is because they're looking for a better paying job. So it kind of sucks right now. Things are slowing down, but it's good for the Feds, and so that's why we're seeing the markets kind of push up again. We do see right now, currently, as the recording of this video, Tesla is kind of pushing down, and it's actually you know, interesting, because I do have this red rectangle over here, which is this supply zone I labeled. Let's go ahead and look at a 4-hour time frame. And it's something that, let me just clarify this, right? When we're doing technical analysis, it's not that you have to predict the markets. People get that wrong. It's really just to measure what's currently going on. And so a couple of videos ago, I made it publicly, I had this supply zone for Tesla, where we see that Tesla got rejected around over here. And when it did break above, right? Of course, you know, we had a catalyst event that pushed Tesla stock upwards, and once it broke above, it ended up being an area of support before plowing down at that area. And so I labeled this as an area of supply, because it's most likely that as we enter over here, old support becomes new resistance, and it was also previous resistance. So we may see some selling pressure, and that's what we've been seeing for the past couple of days. We saw Tesla rally up a couple of days ago, and then of course get rejected. Did again yesterday, kind of enter into that area, but rejected, sold off. And as we were approaching today with a green market, it looks like Tesla is kind of rejecting at the area again. I said again and again, that's funny, but what I'm trying to say is basically you don't want to just assume that Tesla can't break above the supply zone. I think that's something that I have to clarify, because I know I see comments all the time, but Justin, you said this was a supply zone and Tesla broke above it. Look, Tesla eventually is going to break above the supply zone, but what we're seeing and what we're measuring is it going to continue getting rejected? Because if it gets rejected again, well, that may be an opportunity to really short or you know, do whatever you need to do in the short term. For example, right now this may be the top for not only Tesla but the overall markets for the day. But actually, let's look at the markets. Looks like it's kind of stifling right over here, but Tesla is kind of pushing down over here, and we see that there's a low amount of volume relative to price on the 5-minute chart over here. So if we do continue to see selling pressure, we could see Tesla kind of go back to that 250 area again. If the buyers step in, then we could see Tesla move flat for the end of the day, but it's unlikely, right? We could actually push up and then close right around over here. So we'll definitely monitor that if you're trading Tesla in the short term. But more importantly, I have to emphasize that although I may sound bearish on Tesla in the short term, I'm actually a long-term bull, and I invest in the long term for Tesla, right? Most of my portfolio consists of ETFs, but I also have the long-term investment on Tesla. I've been investing since 2017, and I think that Tom Nash, that tweet I showed earlier, is really hitting it on the nail. Yeah, Tesla's doing this, it's bad in the short term, but I think in the long term, we're going to see much more pain from a lot of these legacy automakers trying to compete with Tesla. We also did get some good news with Tesla today, and it's not really that great news, but we saw this snippet shared by Sawyer Merritt. Or actually gave someone else credit, where we see this big batch of Cybertruck castings spotted at Giga Texas. Now, this is interesting because we're now starting to see a whole bunch more of Cybertrucks roll out. We've been seeing videos all over X.com, all over the internet of a lot of employees driving Cybertrucks or seeing more sightings. And so we're getting close to that catalyst of the deliveries being announced. And that's going to be a positive catalyst for Cybertrucks. Again, this is probably why we're seeing the short sellers, pretty much cover their positions as we enter into a long-term 3-day weekend. Because why would you want to short when maybe the announcement of Cybertrucks is coming right around the corner? Along with that, let's talk about things from a macro perspective as well. When we look at the 10-year treasury, when the job reports came out, it spiked up, which was bad, and the markets fell down. But pretty much as the market opened, it was capitulating downwards, and it looks like at the moment it's still curling downwards. And so that's good. That offered some relief to the markets. Again, another reason why we saw Tesla and the overall S&P 500 move upwards. And look, we're seeing Tesla kind of push up, so we'll have to see. You guys can let me know in the comment section below. Did Tesla break above this area, or did it get rejected? We'll have to find out, right? But I also want to point out to something else that's pretty interesting. So if we take a look over here, this is what the future markets are pricing in as far as the target rate possibilities for the November 1st FOMC meeting, which is when the Federal Reserve is going to decide on what they're going to do with monetary policy. And we saw that it actually ticked up a bit from yesterday. See, yesterday this was around, I believe it was like almost 18%, 20%. Now it's close to 30%. And that's because the market got a little bit of a scare from this job data. Yeah, job wages are slowing down, but because there was a lot of jobs added, the markets are kind of getting a little bit more fearful that maybe the Feds may hike. And, that's just something that's interesting to note. But in my opinion, right, I believe that it's unlikely that the Feds are going to hike. I believe we're going to see this number get closer downwards. But of course, we still have some more data points to watch out for, which I'll let you guys know when those, data points start coming out. We have some economic data rolling out in the next couple of weeks, and that's going to have a huge influence on what the Feds do. But as of right now, we still have the 70% chance that, or the markets are pricing in the 70% chance that the Feds are not going to hike. They're just going to hold and pause. And we've been hearing that rhetoric from a lot of the members of the FOMC, where they're not likely to hold for, hike, but just hold for longer. And so, just an interesting development that we're going to want to pay attention to. But let's go ahead and take a look at Tesla from a daily time frame, okay? So one of the things that is interesting is we are moving up. We're pushing upwards, again, close to this area where it's been rejected a multitude of different times in the past. It's been a strong descending trend line. And one thing that we often see is that every time we get up, we get rejected. And it looks like that may end up happening in the next couple of weeks. Why? Well, as we get closer to the fundamental update of getting the Q3 earnings, we may see Tesla push up. But again, we know that this earnings report isn't going to be that great.
and we may again get rejected. I don't expect Tesla to break into a new uptrend. If it does, then I'll definitely add into my long-term portfolio, because I often say I like adding in when things sell off and there's a confirmation of an uptrend. But when there's a new trend identified, meaning that we're breaking out of this prominent descending trend line and going into an uptrend, yeah, I'll add it into my long-term portfolio for Tesla. I don't mind. Again, you guys should only buy and sell when you guys see value. Do not copy what I do. Do not copy what any fund manager does, like Cathie Wood, or like, which, by the way, we spoke about just a couple of days ago when Tesla rallied up. We saw Cathie Wood actually sell some shares of Tesla. I think it was like $25 million worth of Tesla. But again, these fund managers play by a different game. I talked about that in that previous video. But again, no matter if it's me, Gary Black, Cathie Wood, any other YouTuber, anyone else on X.com, you should only trade and invest in whatever you see value in. And so far, what I'm seeing, right, is that we may see Tesla push up, but I don't expect things to actually break into into a new trend or even all-time highs. We're still far from that. And also, one thing that is going to be interesting on this earnings report, which I'm very interested to see, is we've seen a lot more companies add into the Tesla supercharging network. And so I expect that going forward into the next earnings report, we're going to start seeing more and more revenue come in from other services in Tesla. And so that's something that's going to be interesting. Yeah, we may see sales for automobiles down for this quarter, but I think as we continue growing, we're going to see much more revenue coming from other avenues of Tesla, and I think that's going to ramp up going into 2025, and especially closing in at 2030. And so that's why, one of the reasons why I'm bullish on Tesla. I mean, there's several other reasons. If we take a look at the Optimus robots right now, we can't really put a valuation on that because we've heard Elon Musk mention about how they only made like a few of them, and it's kind of difficult to make them and get the parts. But overall, with FSD and Optimus robots, I mean, there's a lot to be excited if you're a long-term investor for Tesla. And this short-term movement, it's cool if you're trading it. For example, I do trade Tesla in the short term to hedge my account. But I'm long-term bullish on Tesla, and I'll let you guys know otherwise when the day comes where I'm like, hey, I am out, I am selling on my Tesla. But that's looking like it's a few years away from where we're currently at. Again, I'll keep you guys updated. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And before you guys go, make sure to watch this next video right over here where I break down why I don't trade or invest in penny stocks. And if you already saw that video, then make sure to check out this video right over here. Take care, guys.